Welcome to the part 7 of the Northeast insurgency. This will be a last part of this lecture because in the that is Arunachal Pradesh, the insurgency was not there. Actually, Arunachal Pradesh used as a way of transportation for the smuggling for the weapons, arms and weapons from the Myanmar side and the China side. So there was no any birth of insurgency within the Arunachal Pradesh. Thus we will not see the Arunachal Pradesh in this lecture because there is no insurgency present in that regions. Okay, in the first part we will see that introduction, then we had taken Nagaland, then Assam, then that is Manipur, Mizoram, Meghalaya and all. Now we will see Tripura in this lecture. This will be a short lecture because Tripura established normalcy within a very few time. So the root cause of insurgency in the Tripura was the huge influx of the migrants from the neighboring Bangladesh. That is a common issue. That is a common for all those states that is the sharing the boundary with the Bangladesh, and ultimately even the Assam right now it is not being sharing completely. There is also the huge influx of the migrants from those regions. So the first wave of refugees that was came, I've already explained on all the state. Here also same thing I will repeat, that the first influx of the refugees came in the 1947. Then the second was happened when the division of that is Pakistan independence happened. Then we will see the illegal migration keep continuing. The same thing it is written here. So the first wave of refugees came in the 1947 during the Indian Pakistan division. Then late 1960s, because of the atrocities of the Pakistani armies against the Bengalis, and then continued until the liberation of Bangladesh in 1971. So till 1971 the migration was continued, and that was termed as legal, that is migrants. Now after that, who is coming within the India, that will called as illegal migrants. Okay, and if the someone is coming from the other regions by persecuted from those areas, then we will call it as the refugees. I have already explained the difference between the refugees and the illegal migrants. That not much difference, but I have explained in those lectures. So still constituent illegal migrants inflow in the Tripura because of this sharing the boundary with the Bangladesh, and thus this changed the demography of the region, population of the regions. Ultimately the outsiders are influencing those regions, and this led to the emergence of the insurgent movement within the state. So the demographic inversion happened within the state. Like actually in the starting, the ratio of the tribal and the non-tribal was 70:30. It means 70% were tribal and 30% people were non-tribal in 1947, and due to large influx changed this into 30:70. Like that is now, that is the 30% tribal to the 70% to the non-tribal. This is known as the demographic inversion. Okay, this is something called as a demographic inversion, which is the root cause of the problem of the Tripura, and the hilly areas by the tribal people and the valley areas by the Bengali migrants. So it was like in the hilly trends, that is the tribal people, that is the even the tribal people of the Tripura lived, and in the valleys areas of the plain land, Bengali migrants were living, that who came from the Bangladesh and all. So they held government of India for this problem, and in the late 1970s we witnessed the birth of few political organizations which were fighting against the illegal migration during that is happening in the Tripura. And later in the 1980s, this protest movement took violent movement in the established the National Liberation Front of Tripura, NLFT. Remember, that is not much in the Tripura one. So the establishment of this movement, NLFT, National Liberation Front of Tripura, happened, and similarly like the ULFA. So it's not much as strong as ULFA, but this happened, and All Tripura Tiger Force, ATTF, formed. So these are the two major insurgent outfits were based upon the Tripura, demanding to seek independence from the India and establish a sovereign independent state as like the other state. Okay, so what is the focus that we have to make? So the main focus of these outfits, that insurgent outfits, these two outfits, NLFT and the Tripura Tiger Force, was that the main focus of this outfit was the interest of the tribal communities by opposing the government of India and by targeting the illegal migrants in order to restore the domination of the tribal communities. That is the problem. 30:70 ratio. So they were like, they will harm this illegal migrant within the territory, and that will oppose the government of India, that will directly hit the government of India. So it was active especially during the 1990 to the 2004, but over the last once decade violence has been came down and normalcy has been restored by the government of India by introducing of the security forces. How? We will see. So along with the Mizoram, Tripura also sent success stories. Okay, normalcy is stored similarly like the Mizoram. So thus we need to adopt such methods used by the government in counter-insurgencies operations. Still, expert claims Tripura and the that is Mizoram as a success story of the government of India. As in the Tripura, as in this Tripura we will see how this effect happened, and in this Mizoram we will see that how the special force, that Indian Air Force and the army were deployed for the counter-insurgency operation. You can watch that video lecture. This is in the previous section of this video lecture, present in the playlist. So the role of the government. So in Mizoram, central government played an important role, but the case of Tripura, see, in the Mizoram, who played the important role? Central government. Remember, in Tripura, state government played the important role. How? In Tripura was complete where the state government played an important role, not the center. The state government of Tripura played an important role by adopting a unique strategy. The state government, under the visionary leadership of former chief minister, that is the previous chief minister, under Manik Sarkar, had adopted a multi-dimensional approach. The unique strategies were that approach by the Manik Sarkar, that government provided counter-insurgency operations by working closely with the central government. In those states, central government was acting as the front one. Here the state was acting closely working with the central government. The provision of APSPA was also called in Tripura in order to empower the security forces. They were getting trained by the APSPA one, which is one of controversial security forces. So the Tripura is the only state where Indian army was not deployed in an active insurgency role. What do you understand by active insurgency? That they were not battling in on the ground. They may be supporting by the giving training to those forces, but not directly fighting in the ground, because they are actually trained with the fighting with the outside countries, outside enemies, not with the Indian citizens. Okay, so instead the state government preferred to utilize the state police service with the coordination of the central paramilitary forces, and they were getting trained by the Indian army and all defense ministry of defense. So as in the internal security issues, maximum forces cannot be deployed. Why? Because the target would be who? Target would be Indian citizens. We can't send that is Indian Air Force and all. Okay, but in the Mizoram we have seen that it was the it was the demand of the government. Government was not had any option by deploy that without deploying them. So thus deployment of the Indian army into the Jammu and Kashmir and few eastern states turned to be highly controversial, because why this deployment of Indian army, which are trained for the fighting with the outsider, why they are working against the Indian citizen? So state government also focused on the psychological operations and management of the media, like how they worked. They started telecasting on the radio channels, on the televisions, about those that is negative effect of those counter insurgency operations, and ultimately the mind of the people were changed, starting to change against them. They came, their mind starting to divert to the mainland India. So the success of Tripura was also to the covert operation run by the IB and RAW. They were also running from the background. The media, that psychological operation, has also played a very significant role. Further, the deployment of the ASPA was also called in the Tripura, that is held by the state government. State government was taking a very important step. At the front step it was acting, and the central government was the back was working from the back end. So the focus of the development and the good governance had also a good impact. So that they ran civic action program of the security forces, which were designed, see, it is very important, that civic action program by the security forces, which were designed to deliver for the services like education, healthcare, water supply, communication, basic infrastructure and all. So in order to build the confidence of the both state and the government, focused on developing of the infrastructure, because those regions are lack of infrastructure during that time. Government did not given care for those regions. Ultimately this was the failure of the government only. Now they came to understand the reason behind all those things. They are not getting employment, they are not getting jobs and all, so they started the development of infrastructure. They created more economic and livelihood opportunities there, and it played a prominent role in reducing the insurgent outfits in the Tripura region. So the state and the central government further focused on the political negotiation too. Indian government was always flexible in dealing with those insurgent movements by negotiations. They always opened an arm of negotiation with the insurgent outfits in order to achieve political solution. Thus, the greater autonomy flexibility was provided by the establishing autonomous district under the 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution. Further, the government helped in the rehabilitation of the victims of the violence. Like if any victims were, that if any people were affected, that is harmed by the insurgent movement or by the Indian forces too, if they were harmed by the Indian forces or by those insurgent movements, so they were getting rehabilitated, they were getting homes or monies helped by the government in the rehabilitation of the victims. So as a result of success, state government revoked AFSPA from the state later when the normalcy was restored. So I hope you understand the lecture. Please feel free to ping me for any issues, for any, if you want any on-demand video lecture, if you want PPT and all. Please like and subscribe. Your subscription is a form of payment for me. Okay, thank you.